Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the weekly Tuesday night Chiefs Digest live Q&A with yours truly, Matt Derrick. Nick Jacobs, as always, will be joining us a little bit later in the show. Not quite the usual late starting time, 7:04 for those of you who are betting on the side tonight. I don't know. Brandon made any money tonight. I hope so. We really should be able to get some action on it. And I think that tonight I will promote the podcast and the live stream coming to you live. Thanks to the fine folks with Members Club Rotisserie Chicken, because in my quest to once again continue to get a sponsor for any of the things here on Chiefs Digest on YouTube, I just mentioned my favorite brands until one of them eventually decides to sponsor the show. And I'm not going to discriminate against either Sam's Club or Costco. But I tell you right now, if America does not run on a $4.99 rotisserie chicken, what do we run on? I mean, that's what obviously is feeding me tonight, and that's why I'm here. So, lot going on, both as usual with the Chiefs on the positive side of the ledger, and always on the questionable side too. Obviously, we've got the NFL schedule coming out tomorrow night. We'll have a couple of discussions on that. One's going to be a live breakdown at 7:30. My good friend Cody Tapp is going to be joining me for that discussion and talking about the Chiefs schedule, since Nick is going to be busy at work at KSHB 41. But never fear, Nick and I will be recording a podcast Wednesday night that will be available probably the first thing Thursday morning, but we'll be getting into the schedule, breaking it all down, giving our thoughts and what we think, how it will play out for the Chiefs. So we've got that to look forward to. Big night on Wednesday, but as always, on the everything is fair game on the live Q&A on Tuesday. So whatever you want to ask about, I will try and do a better job tonight. One of my goals tonight is multitasking. So I'm going to try and read the comments that, as they happen, so it's not one of these things where, as usual, goes on, you make your great jokes and your great comments, and Nick is reading them to me and trying to feed me, and then 30 minutes later I get to it on the stream, and I'm like, oh yeah, hey, that would be appropriate to bring up. So I'm going to try and do a better job of reading while we're doing this. I've been watching some other YouTube channels of people who obviously are much better at that than I am. So trying to learn some new tricks here. I used to be a much better multitasker. Now I'm just not that much. So, in doing this, I see Jackson is talking about doing his cardio at the gym and watching the content. I greatly appreciate that. If it does help you keep you sane and helps you working out, I'll try and do more content for you, Jackson. Definitely. Lord knows I need to be doing some more cardio at the gym, so I need to start finding some good content to enjoy while I'm at the gym and working out. Appreciate that we can do something for you. Luttrell was the first one. Early bird absolutely gets the Q and a little A. Okay, wink, wink. I like that. Let's see. I knew there would be somebody asking about Harrison Butker. We can dive into that. Come on, Brandon, you can't miss any episodes, and you can't miss 41 as the mic, but we have missed you. I did notice you weren't in the comments, so I'm glad to see that you are back. All right. I'm trying to think. So any opening remarks that I've got, not a whole lot's happening right now as far as the breaking news standpoint. I'm sure at some point this evening we will get a Rishi Rice question. I guess I see that already in that Chiefsaholic question. We can combine them all into one. Chris, that is fantastic. I like that. Like where you're going with it. The schedule at this point, I think we now have at least confirmation for 3 games. We know week 1 will be Chiefs and the Ravens. Was a bit of a surprise for me, for my predictions on the podcast on Sunday. I wasn't ruling out the possibility. I mean, that almost any game except for probably Atlanta and Carolina were possibilities for me. I mean, well, road games obviously were not going to be a possibility, but I really thought that the NFL might want a marquee game like the Ravens to be a little bit later in the season. I don't think you need the Ravens to juice up opening night. Obviously, last year with the Lions was a good game. I thought what the NFL had been doing the last couple of years with NFC, AFC games for the opening night was a good decision. I thought that was a good trend to keep on doing. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Ravens Chiefs. I just think that it's really, difficult to put a game like that could have so much meaning on the AFC in week one. I mean, I kind of want to see that later in the season. I want to see both teams at their, you know, fighting weight. I want to see them in midseason form. Hey, these are the two best defenses in the league last year. If you're the NFL and you get a 13-10 game, some people might enjoy that. I'll enjoy it regardless. I mean, doesn't matter to me. If two best teams in the league are playing a defensive battle, that's great. NFL doesn't seem to think that that's their product anymore. I mean, they want more offense. So I don't know why you would put the two best defenses in the league into your primary game to open up the entire season, unless they really want defenses to thrive this year. But hey, if this ends up being, like I said, if it's a 13-10 defensive game, great. I mean, I don't think that's what the NFL wants, but that's the game that they've chosen to put out there. Not that both these offenses can't score, but we saw last year in the playoffs. I mean, these are two real defenses too. So I guess we'll find out a lot about both these teams in week one. That'll be nice. I definitely thought the Bengals and Chiefs should be a early season game. My bet was on October. They went a little bit earlier than I thought they might, but there's no doubt. I mean, to me, make sure if you got Mahomes, Burrow, make sure it's early in the season and both those quarterbacks are healthy. Don't let the offensive line of the Cincinnati Bengals get a chance to hurt Joe Burrow. I kid mostly. That'll be great. I mean, hopefully Burrow is back up at that point as far as being 100% and back in the groove. I mean, once again, I would have liked to have seen that game a couple of weeks later when maybe everybody's, on fire, but hey, it is what it is. And now Jordan Schultz, who's reporting, is generally very, very solid. Says that the Chiefs 49ers will be in week 7. I mean, you can put Chiefs 49ers anywhere, and it sounds like it's going to be a 3:25 game on Fox, which will mean Tom Brady in the booth. So we got that to look forward to. That should be entertaining. But it's obviously, I mean, it's starting out the season with those two games is going to be tough. The fact that it's at home is nice for the Chiefs. I do start thinking forward a little bit that, when you've got 8 home games and 9 road games, you get 2 out of the way immediately. 6 of your last 15 games now are going to be at home and 9 are going to be on the road. I mean, it's going to be a backloaded road schedule. So let's see what happens in December and January. Since I'm on the schedule, and Anonymous Mango is bringing up a rumor that's been floating around, I've seen it as well and heard about it. And at least, there's some decent sourcing behind it. So we'll see if it happens about Chiefs and Steelers on Christmas Day. And if that happens, it would mean that the Chiefs, Steelers, and 2 other teams would play on the preceding Saturday. And then they would meet on that Wednesday for Christmas, and the Chiefs would play one game on Saturday, Steelers would play in the other. The 2 teams that they face would then play each other on Christmas Day in the second game. One of those games will be on NBC. The other game, we still don't know. Netflix is supposedly the team trying to get it. Amazon's trying to get it too. So we'll see. I guess we'll find out tomorrow night for sure, unless it's leaked beforehand, what happens. But honestly, I mean, the way that the NFL set up this Christmas Day game, I would not be opposed to it if I'm the Chiefs, because if you're playing on that Saturday, you're going to be most likely, I don't think they're going to hose a team by saying, hey, you're going to play Monday night and then you're going to play on Saturday before Christmas. I think it's going to be Sunday, Saturday for those teams. So everybody playing on Saturday is in theory going to playing on one day short rest. They're going to be playing then on Wednesday, but all 4 of those teams are going to be playing on the same rest. So even though it's a short week, you're playing against the team, short week. The one advantage will be whomever is at home for that game. That'll be an advantage. And in that case, it's the Steelers. It would be an advantage for the Steelers. But then you're talking about getting a mini bye after that. Once again, the NFL can do some squirrely things. So maybe you won't get a full 10 days until the following Sunday. Maybe they'll put you on another Saturday. Who knows? But the idea that 4 teams are going to get a 10-day break in January, the end of December, beginning of January before the postseason, that is a huge advantage. So if I'm the Chiefs, I would absolutely volunteer for that Christmas Day game to get a 10-day break after that. going into the postseason and going into January. I think that's going to be a huge advantage for somebody this year. So, and considering how little rest the Chiefs got at the end of the season last year, I think that would be a tremendous advantage going in, setting up the postseason. So we'll see if that rumor comes true. But I've seen it kicking around, and since the NFL revealed what their schedule was going to be as far as Christmas goes, I feel like that would be a great advantage. So I'm going to just dive into the rest of your questions, and we'll get in and out of the schedule. And I figured this was going to come up, Jackson. So I want to just kind of head it off immediately. Not really head it off, but just address it immediately. I know you probably don't want to get political on this channel. Butker's commencement speech at Benedictine has led to a lot of hate towards him. Do you think he or the Chiefs will address it? I would expect that Harrison will probably address it in some way. He does get questioned about his stances on these things, and he's never really been one to run from them. I mean, even though Harrison does make himself a little bit less available to the media than he used to, I don't think it's necessarily because of some of his personal beliefs and he's worried about being questioned about it. I think he's just a little bit more, a little bit more reticent about, speaking than he used to be. I don't think he likes it particularly. And as far as his remarks at Benedictine, I mean, one thing I'll just be straight up is that I don't want to talk about it too much until I watch the whole thing in context. I mean, I do know that sometimes things can get taken out of context. I would imagine that some of the things that are being reported about what he said, I mean, I have no doubt that they're word for word what he said. And I have no doubt that he believes in those things strongly. And they probably are not mischaracterizing his beliefs. He has deeply held, personal beliefs, and I know that they're genuine and sincere. They may not all be beliefs that I concur with, and I'm sure there are others who would differ as well. But at least I know that they're sincere with him. So I don't have any questions on from that standpoint. I would like to, talk to him about it sometime in a more meaningful conversation than just a press conference. And I'd like to do that after I see the entire address and the entire remarks. And that's why I don't want to, break it down too much. But, I think that for the most part, I would imagine Harrison will stand by his remarks. I doubt that he said anything that he would regret or anything that was against his own personal beliefs. They were prepared remarks. So, but I would say for all of us, we probably should put them in the context of everything that he says and what he said. Sometimes things come across in print differently than they come out in person. So I want to be as fair as I possibly can to Harrison, because I do know him to be a genuine person of sincerely held beliefs. And even, like I said, even if they're not necessarily all things that I would subscribe to, I give him the benefit of the doubt on the fact that he has his system and he has his beliefs. It's obviously something that works for him and his family. So it is what it is. No, I don't think the Chiefs will probably address it too much. I mean, if anyone gets asked about it, I mean, if Andy Reid gets asked about it, Clark Hunt were to get asked about it, I think that they would probably say that they respect the rights of all their players to have whatever beliefs that they do and stand behind them. I don't think that anybody's going to call him out. Harrison's always been popular in the locker room. He's a good teammate. So, that's just like, hey, we all probably work with people that we have different feelings about things, that we have different political opinions. Hey, there's probably some pretty good discussions in the locker room. I know that there have been pretty good discussions in the locker room when it comes to whether it's politics or social justice or any of these things. So, but I've never seen it divide the locker room. I've never seen it divide these teammates. So I don't think it's going to in this case. Like I said, I imagine that Harrison will get asked about it. I would like to ask him about it. And like I said, I would like to do it in a different forum than a press conference. I'm really hoping that you would allow maybe me to spend some time with him some point this season and talk about it and just explain, his philosophy behind a couple of things. But at the same time, he's not under any obligation to do so, any more than I am, to explain, some of the beliefs that I hold. So I'm not trying to walk any sticky line here, Jackson. I mean, I truly am just trying to tell you what I think about it, the way I see it. I mean, there's two different levels. I mean, obviously, there's my own personal belief towards it, and then there's how I see it affecting this team. And I just don't see it affecting this team that much. you can work alongside and be good friends with people who have different religious and political beliefs than you do, and Chiefs are certainly one of those places. So we'll see, but and that's my other great phrase that I told you all I was going to try to eliminate. We'll see, but I guess it applies in this case. I don't think it's going to have any long-term impact. It's probably a short story for a few days. I know it's going to get a lot of national attention, especially because of the way he invoked Taylor and quoted some Taylor Swift lyrics. But I mean, if anything happens between him and Travis, I'm sure it'll be settled personally. And I don't see the Chiefs walking away from Harrison. I don't see the Harrison wanting to walk away from the Chiefs. Now we'll see about his future. This is his last year in Kansas City. Does it affect that? Does it affect negotiations? I doubt it. I mean, I think it'll still come down to play on the field and how he fits in with the locker room. So I don't think there's going to be anything that changes in that standpoint. And reality is that, I mean, Harrison Butker's the second best kicker in the National Football League. And maybe not just right now, but maybe of all time. So that tells you a lot. Chris, will Amazon select Rashee Rice as the narrator for the documentary Chiefsaholic, A Wolf in Chiefs Clothing? Well, I was going to say, I was going to make it almost a distinction about one being worse than the other, but I don't know that I can really do that. I mean, even in a joking context, and I certainly don't want to joke about either one of them too much, but yeah, the Chiefsaholic documentary and the fact that Drake is producing it, I've got nothing for you there. I mean, this just, everything that does around it just keeps getting weirder and weirder. So I'm just, I don't even know what to say at this point. I mean, the amount of Chiefsaholic documentaries that we're getting, it's impressive. I mean, kudos to the Chiefsaholic for making himself, I guess, a character, but I don't know. Justin, excellent. The burner account is here reporting for duty. I greatly appreciate it. Brandon, what do you think that the Chiefs' weakest side of the ball will be this season, defense or offense? Last year was offense, the year before defense. So what will it be? And this was on my mind a little bit earlier today when I was talking with Ryan Tracy over at Locked On Chiefs for that podcast, and especially in context too with the Ravens game, and whether this is going to be a battle between the number one and number two scoring defenses of last year. That to me is this Chiefs defense, can it back up what it did last year? This defense being as good as it was last year is going to be hard to do. And that's even before you think about taking, L'Jarius Sneed out of it. I think that there's even, some concerns that, maybe there's not enough fresh blood on the defensive side. And I say that even though, that the defense as good as it was last year, one of the things that the NFL and the Chiefs in particular have thrived on is turnover, and that you just continue to bring, fresh faces in. I mean, that's a big belief I know of, the Brett Veach and the Andy Reid system, is that you don't let guys get in, stick around until they're too old. I mean, Andy Reid was famous in Philadelphia for walking away from players before they got into their 30s. Now, the Chiefs are sticking with some guys that are going into their 30s. Chris Jones, obviously, is a great example of that. I mean, I don't believe that Chris Jones is going to fall off a cliff this year, but, if he were to get injured, that would certainly affect this defense. And, what's the likelihood that the Chiefs can be as healthy as they were last year defensively, that everybody is going to play as well and continue to step forward? I mean, there's always a chance there's a regression, that somebody's just going to be a year older, maybe a step slower. That's why, bringing in, new faces to push you is usually a good idea. And, and the Chiefs just don't have a ton of new faces on defense. I mean, there will be probably in the secondary a couple of new faces, but maybe one or two defensive linemen, maybe. Fabian Lovett is probably the biggest new face that you're going to have in there that's going to be pushing the defensive tackles, and I think that's a good addition. But, how much more will they have defensively, kind of trying to inject it in there? Because, and that's, a little concern to me. I mean, sometimes continuity most of the time is great, but sometimes there can be too much continuity. And and that's going to be a question for me is, how many players back from the Super Bowl are going to be back on this team? I mean, usually the Chiefs have quite a few new faces. It's not just the 7 draft picks that you might have. It's, a couple of new additions there, free agency, trades. I mean, sometimes you're going to have 15 new players, sometimes 20, even for good teams. And I expect this Chiefs team to have a little bit less turnover. And will that affect them on the defensive side? I don't know. I mean, I have some questions, but we'll see. Vonda, Democrats hate people who think differently on them. I respect all speech if it offends me. I agree with the second half of your premise. I'm not sure that I agree with the first half of your premise. I don't really want to get into that discussion, and I'm not going to say anything, but I'll just say, hey, if you project that one group of people hates another group of people, that's a really good way to get on my crap list. And I've never banned anybody. I'm not planning on banning people from the discussion, but let's just say that's not the way I would go. So I agree with the second half of your statement, though. There's absolutely no reason why you can't be a Harrison Butker fan on the football field and maybe think the differently things about him. If you hate Harrison as a player, but think he's great off the field too, I mean, it's a free country. You can feel that way too. I mean, it goes both ways. So, I mean, no, I don't know. I hope that this doesn't become a thing. Just as I mean, people are going to believe what they believe. So we'll go from there. So I was getting ready to bring up Chris's question that I was afraid that I missed some others now that I'm trying to go around and stay into the discussion and see what's going on down later. Braden had another question about any positives of the Rice suspension. I mean, there's no positive from a potential Rice suspension. So, and I'm again, I mean, I could be surprised. He could miss time this year. I mean, it should largely depend on the legal process. The NFL almost never takes makes a decision on a suspension until a legal process is finished. Doesn't mean that they wait for both of the legal processes over incidents that Russia has been allegedly involved in. So one could be concluded, there could be another one going on, and the NFL might make a decision at that point. But I will say, I mean, the only thing I would say is that I do have next week as a bit of a line as far as whether the NFL or the Chiefs would make any presumptive move as far as putting him on suspension or the commissioner's exempt list, anything of that nature next week. Even though this week the Chiefs are back for the final week of phase 2 of OTAs. Next week is phase 3, and that's when the whole team gets together. The media is going to be available for each of those weeks once a week. So it's a little bit different then. I mean, I think that if the NFL were going to put him on the exempt list, it would have done so already. So I don't think that that's necessarily going to happen. If it were to happen, I think next week would be the deadline for it to happen. And that's assuming that nothing changes the information that we know, which, right now, especially with the second incident at the nightclub, we still don't know a whole lot. There's still a lot of information that's missing and a lot of holes to fill in. So we will, I was going to say we'll see, but I'm going to try and stop saying that. But yeah, I mean, but there's no positive to it. I mean, if you're going to say, hey, some guys get some snaps, that's great, but you really need Rashee Rice taking snaps during the season. So if you're the Chiefs, you need him. I still think it's going to be 2025 that you're probably not going to see Rashee Rice for a period of time. It could still be this year, but I wouldn't lose a whole lot of sleep worrying about it right now. I don't think the Chiefs are worrying about it a whole lot. And frankly, I don't think there was a lot of worry about the suspension from that he was going to be getting until the second incident. So a lot of things could still happen. A lot of information to still come in. Chris, it is still May, but I'm wondering what names we should know about when it comes to the 2025 NFL draft. Oh, wow. Unless they're in the SEC or play for Mizzou, Chris, I could not tell you. I'd love to see Luther Burden in Kansas City, but I don't think that's going to happen. Don't think the Chiefs are going to have a high enough draft pick to be able to make that happen. But check back with us later, because hey, Nick and I will absolutely have some opinions, but no, I'm a dummy on the college season until January, and things got to slow down on the NFL side, and then I can start looking at the draft classes. I like my Mizzou Tigers, and I'll pay attention to K-State and Kansas, but Yeah, I couldn't even begin to tell you about the 2025 class, except, like I said, Luther Burden's going to be a first round pick. Kind of curious what's going to happen with our quarterback, Brady Cook. So I don't know if he can play in the NFL or not. I mean, I'm not going to bet against him, though, because that kid is a grinder and he is a survivor. Jackson, what are your thoughts about the Chiefs facing the Bengals, Ravens, and 49ers in the first 7 weeks? Knowing Rice will be most likely out, hey, we don't know. And what are the positives to the early loaded schedule? I mean, there are probably some. I mean, well, one, we'll see what the schedule looks like when it comes out. I mean, you might not feel like it's too positive as far as being a front loaded schedule if the Chiefs finish in December with on the road at Pittsburgh and Buffalo and going to Denver and maybe going to Los Angeles or something, and then finish the season with like 4 of their last 6 games on the road, and and they've got some playoff opponents at the end of the season. We'll see how. I mean, we'll see. You never know how it's going to play out. I mean, and maybe it'll be a kind of a similar situation as last year. I mean, maybe you'll get one of these. Maybe you'll play the Ravens in week 1. Lamar Jackson will get hurt. The Ravens won't be a playoff team, and we're feeling completely different about them. Maybe the 49ers will struggle. Who knows? Maybe the Chiefs will struggle. There's so many things that can happen. So, hey, Bengals, Ravens, 49ers in the first 7 weeks. I mean, I bring it on would be my attitude if I'm the Chiefs. I mean, if the NFL is going to give you a tough schedule, I mean, just go out and get it. And once again, though, I mean, all this team really needs to do in a 17-game season is get into the playoffs, and then that this team can take it from there. Even though the Chiefs have traditionally been a good team in the early part of the season, especially the first 4 weeks of the season in September, obviously, hey, a Colt stumble here or there notwithstanding. Last year was a little bit of a hiccup for them, but this team is usually good right out of the box because Andy Reid's usually really good out of the box offensively. So who knows what's going to happen? But no, it wouldn't worry me. I mean, in fact, I'd say if you're the Chiefs, Andy Reid's famous for saying they had to go play in a parking lot. They'd go do it. Yeah, I mean, hey, you got the Ravens and Bengals and 49ers in the first 7 weeks. Go ahead, throw Buffalo in there too. Throw anybody you got. Play all the toughest games up early. This team can handle it. They can do it. So I know Nick is in the green room and is going to come in shortly, but I'm not going to bring him in until he gets his full time, and I think he's also setting up some audio, so I'm going to give him a chance to settle in, and I'll wait till I get my thumbs up. I saw Jackson, you had a second. Oh, this is what I was talking about, the cardio at the gym. Jackson, I appreciate that. Like I said, I need to do some of that too. I'm not just trying to go to Jackson and Brandon, and come on, and some of you, well, okay. I had Chris's question up. I'm going to answer it, and then we'll go to Matt. It was one of our good members here. 2 early games means a stretch of road games late in the middle part of the schedule. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It does mean that there's going to be a little bit of a road stretch at some point. I know the NFL typically tries to make sure that no team has to play more than 2 games on the road, but some things sneak through every once in a while. So you just never know what's going to happen. Let's see what the full schedule looks like. We may have completely different feelings on it 24 hours from now when we see the full schedule versus the rest of it. Oh, Matt, I say I'm going to go to you next because you're one of our good members and you just want to make fun of us because we totally missed on the season opener. Yeah, Nick and I were both trying to go not outside the box, just kind of what the NFL had been doing the last few years. And I really thought that I still believe, like I said at the top of the show, I mean, an AFC NFC game I think has great value. So I think I'd keep doing that if I was the NFL. I mean, I think it's a good game for the product, a good game for the league. I mean, there are AFC and NFC type fans and markets. So give everybody a chance to be familiar with the teams that are playing in that game. I'd be all for it. I think it's good from a competitive standpoint. And last year, obviously, the Lions showed that anybody can beat anybody on any given Thursday. So I would be up for it. Like I said, I mean, hey, there's nothing wrong with Ravens Chiefs. Obviously, it's going to be one of the more important games of the year. Does that mean it's going to be a great game? No, there's no guarantees. But yeah, just give us a hard time for that. That's okay. We'll wear that one. But hey, at least I was closer with my prediction of saying that, hey, the Bengals needed to be an early game. If Nick is ready, if he gives me the thumbs up, I will. He is not ready yet, so I'm going to still wait for the thumbs up. He's still in the green room. But Brandon's next question: How impressed are you with Louis Reese-Zammit? From a speed standpoint, from an attitude standpoint, very impressed. The kid's obviously focused. He is fast. He might run a little awkwardly right now, but it works for him. He's got a style. I think he'll have to change a little bit just as far as protecting the football, protecting his body on a football field. It's a little bit different. But there's no doubt. I mean, the kid's athletic. He's fast. I think he's got a great attitude. He's charismatic. I mean, he's going to be popular if he plays well. He can be a spokesperson for a team. Says all the right things. There's a lot to like with him. I mean, and I know that he's impressed behind the scenes as far as just his work ethic, his attitude, his likability. I mean, obviously he's getting along with players in the locker room really well so far. I think there's a lot to like, but one thing you consistently hear, and you can see it on the field too, is that football is brand new to him. No one knows what's going to happen the first time he gets hit by a real NFL player. I know he talked about wearing pads and at the IPP Academy, and playing with some of the other players in the International Pathway Program, but he hasn't been hit by, a TJ Watt. He hasn't been hit by a Nick Bolton. I mean, he hasn't been hit by, anybody like of that caliber and that level. So let's see what happens at that point. I mean, like Andy Reid said, when I asked him about his running style and, needing to make adjustments, and, he said, well, he will adjust his pad level the first time he gets hit. And that's the one thing, I hear a lot about is just, he kind of runs with the ball exposed a little bit, his ribs exposed for a little bit, and that'll change once he gets hit. I am impressed with him, Brandon, but we are so far away from a rookie mini camp to being ready for the season. He's got a lot of work to do. Not that he can't do it. I think he can. I think he can play a role for this team. But my general feeling is keep your expectations low and you will be happy. I've had that, about a lot of players in the past. I think that was my general message with Justin Ross. And I think if you kept your expectations low with Ross, I mean, you might not be happy, but at least you wouldn't be disappointed. And right now, I mean, the range of outcomes for Louis Reese-Zammit is wide. He could be just another player. He could be a superstar. I mean, it's a wide range of possibilities. So, but yeah, you talked about his 30-minute interview that he did last week with mostly a lot of international reporters. That was really informative to me. I thought it was really interesting, and he answered all comers. I mean, they put him out there, so I thought that was a lot of fun. And like I said, he's going to be a likable guy. So I do want him to be a good player for this team, because I think he would be a good player for the league and for the franchise to have out front, and definitely be an ambassador going around the world and going into the UK and Europe. So Dr. Ozzy, NFL front-loading the Chiefs' schedule for a Rice suspension. Hey, as I told Ryan Tracy earlier today, not everything's a conspiracy, but some things are a conspiracy. So your mileage may vary on that one. Lego, not worried about a week 1, even week 2. No, don't. I mean, if you're the Chiefs, you're not worried until week 18. That's the first week that you ever get worried if you're the Chiefs. So that's a nice place to be. Ozzy, do you expect most of the vets to be at OTAs next week? I do. I mean, I think most of the roster will be there. I mean, I would expect probably close to full attendance. You might have a few here and there that miss out. I mean, I think there's the expectation that Travis won't be there for all of OTAs. I would imagine he'll be there for a portion of OTAs. He may have some other commitments, personal, business, or otherwise, but that happens every year. I think the last couple of years, there's been like a golf tournament fundraiser that has been held in Hawaii that I think that Travis and Patrick went to. I think there was Patrick had a foundation fundraiser one year he went to. I think this year it sounds like he might have a conflict for at least one day of OTAs. Travis is probably going to have some. There might be a few other players. I mean, you never know what's going to pop up. I mean, Players have wives and girlfriends who are pregnant. They've missed most time for that. It's also OTA. So hey, we've had players who miss practice because their kids got a dental appointment. So I mean, nobody's too worried about that. But as far as just the players being there for the bulk of it, I would imagine. I mean, yeah, it's probably going to be close to 90 players. Every single day. There might be a few missing, but I haven't heard of anybody in particular like not being there for any reason other than injury. Checking on Nick to see if we're getting the thumbs up. So
hi, it's me. I'm here now.
Woohoo!
It wouldn't connect to my social media accounts, so I had to try to figure out how to relog in, send me a verification code, and get through that process. So everybody is aware that we're doing this, or at least on my account. You already did it perfectly at 7.
Well, and now that I'm trying to read forward, and everything, and all this kind of stuff, Jackson asked earlier, so I answered the Harrison Butker questions, Nick, so you don't have to. But
I don't know what they are, but all right.
And I Jackson, I appreciate that, and Vonda too, there quoted earlier. I mean, I appreciate the conversation. I just don't make it personal or anything is all I say, and I try to get my sincere thoughts on it at the top. I mean, I don't think it's anything that's going to affect the Chiefs. Harrison's got his beliefs, and I may not agree with all of them. He might believe in some things that I believe. I'm sure there's things I believe in that Harrison doesn't. And there's things like guys in the locker room that are the same way. They still work together. They're still friends. So we all just get along, Nick. That's all I'm saying. So we talked about a few things, mostly a lot of schedule related. Nick, anything on your mind as far as the schedule goes that you want to get off your chest? Now that we are 23 hours and 20 minutes away from schedule release and the 3 games that we know about so far?
The only ones I know before I went to the grocery store and one of my errands run is obviously the Ravens yesterday, Bengals today, and then the alleged 49ers game.
Yes, the alleged. It's Jordan. Jordan's pretty good, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he's probably accurate on that one.
I'm going to say that for anything that's not officially from NFL or Fox that has been given to them for their upfronts. Because what people don't know is right now they're called upfronts. So each network is currently selling advertisers on their products in person in a presentation form and saying, hey, coming this fall, we're going to have Walker, Texas Ranger. I just took a random show. So we're going to have Walker, Texas Ranger on Fridays at 9, and you kind of give their fall lineup, and then they give some of the other unique events they're going to have that advertisers could buy for if they want to. But then they bring notable either actors out or something, like you saw Tom Brady yesterday, who was out there for Fox. I know NBC had theirs, I believe, yesterday morning. Fox had theirs yesterday afternoon. Disney had theirs this morning. So that Disney could technically cover ESPN, ABC, and also things on Disney Plus. I don't remember when Hulu's is. I know Netflix's is tomorrow, so I fully expect the Christmas ones to come out at Netflix's upfronts. So then I think those will already be locked into place where people will know about that. And then I know Monday Night Football, I got to NFL announced for Monday Night Football this morning through Good Morning America with Joe Buck on about the Monday night game between the Jets and 49ers. And then Joe Buck also mentioned that, the must-see teams, we're all going to have 2 apiece. There's 2 that we weren't sure about. In terms of the Chiefs-Ravens game, what that told me when they put that as the opener of the season is, 1, they really want to crush some ratings numbers in week 1. Whether it's the season opener, the Friday game that's going to be promoted like crazy when the Chiefs play, you're going to know as much about the Eagles-Packers game on on Thursday night as you probably will the Chiefs-Ravens game. They're going to sell those storylines for Brazil on Friday like you wouldn't believe. That's going to be on Peacock. That's just the way that's going to go. And then it helps them promote their Sunday night football game when that comes out. It'll also help them promote the Monday night game between the Jets and 49ers. And then it may even get aggressive and promote the Thursday night game the following week that Amazon announced between the Dolphins and Bills, I believe. So the Chiefs are the start of the advertising cycle to really get you ramped up for the first week, to get everybody tuned in and locked in to what they're going to do. And I wouldn't be stunned if the Thursday night opener has a lot about Tom Brady doing the first game against the Cowboys Browns, and kind of hits that home a couple of times because it's just going to be good business for everybody, in my opinion, if you promote every single one of those games, and NFL just gets massive ratings for that first week. So I think that's a lot of what they did. So they had a choice. They could ease into it with a lesser known game, or they could go in with the Chiefs Ravens, and that's what they did. And on top of it, what's going to be interesting for the Chiefs is the Ravens lost their defensive coordinator. He's in Seattle. They lost their defensive line coach. He's with the Dolphins. So how quickly is their defense able to bounce back and be at the form it was when they played the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game? While the Chiefs bring back their entire coaching staff, you just have new pieces at wide receiver and potentially at left tackle, and not having L'Jarius Sneed. And we'll see what happens from there, since it's May. But it's the Chiefs. I thought it was interesting. The NFL gave the Chiefs the Ravens, who lost their defensive coordinator, and then the following week they gave the Chiefs the Bengals, who lost their offensive coordinator and O-line coach. So the fact that they lost some key pieces on both of their coaching staffs, I thought was interesting that they gave that to the Chiefs. But like you and I talked about, I thought the AFC North was going to be featured very prominently in the Chiefs' schedule and some of those primetime games, and it's already happening.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And, with what we do know from the schedule so far and some of the little nuggets, and, and Joe Buck mentioning the two Monday night games absolutely fits in with expectations. I mean, last year the Chiefs were scheduled for 2 Mondays, 2 Sundays, and 2 Thursdays. That would certainly still fit in with everything that we've heard. And there's other ways that the NFL, I mean, that's the limit. I mean, 6 scheduled primetime games is the maximum. But there's other ways that the Chiefs kids still figure into some shenanigans that the NFL's got planned as far as to get them in the big windows. You and I theorized on the podcast on Sunday that you can go, if it's still fresh for 24 hours if you want to know our predictions for the schedule and what we think might happen. But the Amazon Black Friday game, a possibility. Obviously, there's a reasonably well-sourced rumor out there that the Chiefs might be in the plans, as I mentioned earlier, for the Christmas Day combination, which would be a sneaky way of getting the Chiefs into 2 decent windows, because then they would be on a national Saturday window and a national Wednesday window on a Sunday that would not count in prime time.
Now, here's where I'm going to push back on that one, though.
Push away.
And this isn't meant to. This is something I've been thinking about, rattling my brain today. While I was making my grocery list, of course. If you put the Chiefs in that Saturday window, I think you lose a lot because of the college football playoffs. I think you're going to be competing with the college football playoffs more than you probably want with Mahomes. I think a Chiefs game of that caliber on that week, I think you just want to put in a different spot to get one of the network partners max ratings in that regard. So, but the downside is if you don't put the Chiefs on Netflix, which they probably will be on, we don't know definitively, but if you want to give Netflix the chance to just smash streaming records across the globe, and Patrick Mahomes could do that, but you know who else could do that?
Who else?
Dallas Cowboys, without a problem. You give the Dallas Cowboys Thanksgiving, you give the Dallas Cowboys Christmas Day. I don't see how Jerry Jones doesn't want to be a part of something where they can smash records. Because the other thing is, if I'm in the NFL shoes with the Amazon Black Friday game, that's where I want Mahomes at. You didn't get Mahomes last year in it. You had New York Dolphins. If you want to have Mahomes and guarantee those eyeballs on Black Friday and on Amazon and that streaming, that's where you put the Chiefs at. And then on top of it, you pick whichever opponent market-wise you want to do. And Matt, I was thinking about today, you want to know the 2 that I think it would be if it was a Black Friday game?
Lay it on me.
Houston Texans or the Los Angeles Chargers, and either one would be at Arrowhead.
Yeah.
The reason I would think you would do that is because you get the Houston market from an Amazon perspective if you're trying to get people to go to your website and buy your products, or you try to go get the LA market and you lock in on 2 of those you have 2 top 30 markets in the area, and then you have the national scale with Mahomes, who's going to appeal to everybody. and Travis Kelce, and potentially, if Taylor Swift happens to be there. I'm just saying, if I'm in Amazon shoes, that's the game that I'm pushing for.
I have a fatalist prediction, and this is only because it's the Mizzou fan in me that thinks that the Chiefs will absolutely be playing in the Christmas Day combination game, because it would be the most Mizzou thing ever for Missouri to be in the college football playoff and playing opposite the Kansas City Chiefs.
Matt, you're not wrong in that thought process.
I mean, it almost seems like it's just written that way. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna hide it. I personally, I'm not rooting for a Christmas Day game.
Oh, none of us are, because none of us want to work on Christmas.
It's not that. I would like to spend time with my family, given what's happened this past year. So exactly. I don't. That's not in my wheelhouse. But hey, it's not up to me at the end of the day. So
we'll see what the NFL will do to us. But brother Rick with the super chat, appreciate you, Rick. Want to ask about BJ Thompson, one of the draft picks from last year. Anyway, he sees some playing time in 24. That's an interesting question, because I would include him kind of on the list of people that would be new faces, because obviously he didn't really play at all last year. It was kind of a red shirt year for him, Nick. I mean, he's a tweener. I mean, and the Chiefs obviously saw enough because they kept him around all season. But it was a matter of just, one, maturing him a little bit physically, growing him up, putting a little bit more muscle. I'm going to be really intrigued to see kind of what weight he is size-wise when we get OTA started, to see if he's kind of bulked up a little bit. I think that was certainly part of the plan last year. I mean, and he just needed a little bit and a seasoning. And honestly, the Chiefs were so deep last year that they really didn't have to go down that far. I feel like this defense, Nick, I mean, it needs guys to step up and compete, younger players especially, because they're bringing a lot back. And that's one thing that, even though you got a good defense, you need challenges. I mean, you need guys fighting for jobs. You need guys, competing and people being brought in. The Chiefs haven't really brought in a whole lot of new faces. I mean, defensively, they're running it back. I mean, a big part of their philosophy. But if they're going to do that, I mean, I feel like that they need some guys like Anadike Uzama, like a BJ Thompson, draft picks like Jaden Hicks. I mean, they need these players to come in and, in the immortal words of Isaiah Pacheco, take a grown man's job if they want this defense to be as good as it was last year. Am I wrong about that?
I mean, with where BJ Thompson was drafted, he was always going to be a project.
Yes.
Like you're not taking a guy in the top 3 rounds. You're hoping you can at minimum use them on special teams early. Maybe they exceed your expectations at the end of year 1 to maybe into year 2, and you're really trying to target that year 3, year 4 to make a decision on them and hope they turn into like a Mike Dana ability type of player during that time, which is the same kind of path that Mike Dana went on when you think about where he was drafted compared to where BJ Thompson's drafted. So with Felix Anudike-Uzomah, that is the one that you need to come together. That's the one you need to click, because you don't have Charles Omenihu potentially early on in the season. You hope you do, but if you don't, you need Felix to be strong against the run. The fact he's working with Tamba and working on his hand quickness and hand fighting ability, that's great. Somebody like BJ Thompson, we don't know. We don't know with him, and we don't know with Felix until training camp when the pads come on. That's whenever we will be able to tell and we'll be able to know. Matt and I may be able to see at OTAs or during the mini camp, we might be able to see, he looks bigger and he looks quicker. Like, we might be able to see some of those, he's got a better pop on the bag than he did last year. But in the grand scheme of it, like those are one of those early August questions, unfortunately, before you have a definitive answer on that. But, I mean, mentally you prepare for special teams and you hope for more.
Yeah, and and BJ, he played just the one game last year, and I thought he looked decently in that game. He had a couple of tackles, and was kind of a rotational player in that game. Just moving. I mean, I think he played like 25, 30 snaps and had a couple of tackles. That's a good mark for me. But you think about it, you're not going to have Charles Omenihu to start the season, so you're going to have Karlaftis and Dana are going to be your starters. Felix is going to be your number 3 guy who needs to play a lot of snaps, but then you've got somebody who needs a step up, because, you got Malik Herring, who's been around for a while, but I think Herring at this point, he is what he is. You've got a couple of young guys in, especially BJ Thompson and Truman Jones, that, I mean, this is their opportunity to step up. I mean, Truman Jones was an undrafted player, spent the entire season on the practice squad. I think there's a decent chance that one of those two guys, either Jones or BJ Thompson, is going to maybe be your number 4 guy starting the season. It's just going to be, you know, who wins that job and who competes the best. And BJ's he's got size on his side. I mean, obviously, one of the things you were really excited about when the Chiefs drafted him was that he seemed to have an uncanny ability to block kicks in college because he is so long and lean. But you know that he might be too long for that position. We'll find out. But I'm excited. I mean, you know, Rick, let's see what happens. I mean, I think he's got the chance. There's absolutely the potential there. It's just question, can he put it together, and can he beat out some of the other guys he's competing against? I know my next one I was going to go to, and the order was Anonymous Mango, but it wasn't that one because it was the other Anonymous Mango question because I came up with that one earlier. So I see once again, I start, you know, moving around, Nick, and trying to, you know, read in real time. I get confused.
It happens, man. It happens. You were about 7-7. You were about 7-19.
Oh, well, see, there you go.
That's what I'm here for, Matt.
That's what I need. I need an intern, and you're too high priced to be my intern. But
well, I mean, technically, I'm doing this for free tonight, so the same.
There you go. What do you think benefits the Chiefs having the tougher teams early on the schedule? Ravens, Bengals, Niners. I mean, Nick, there's going to be some other tough teams on the schedule too, because Chiefs have got a lot of tough teams that could be scattered around different places. But I mean, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. I mean, another question kind of touched on it. I mean, do you care? I mean, if you're Andy Reid and the Chiefs, don't you you're just like, bring it on?
I mean, anytime Andy's been asked this question before, he's like, we're going to play the team that's in front of us. So, and he also says his famous line every time, we look forward to the challenge. So they're going to find out what team they have. They're going to find out how close they are to being able to try to win 3 straight Super Bowls. So, I mean, it doesn't matter who they play, if they're tough, if they're not as tough in our minds or whatever. Any team can beat any team. The Raiders proved that on Christmas Day last year. Chiefs still went on to win a Super Bowl. And the Raiders are clutching to that in this offseason as much as they can for that. That's the step that they're on, and that's the path that they're on, and they're going to take that turn. They seem to forget who they have at quarterback, but, you know, tomato. But, no, I mean, look, they play whoever they play. Hopefully they win a whole bunch of games and they get back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and Anonymous Mango's second question there. Jeremy Fowler reported the Chiefs are still in the market for another veteran. Do you expect them to sign one or just bring back Mecole Hardman? I mean, clearly we know the Chiefs are in the market for a veteran receiver because they brought in Zay Jones to kick the tires on him. I would imagine there's probably a couple of other veterans. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, I think the Chiefs would like to bring in another body for the receiver position, but it's going to be a matchup possibility. I mean, it's not only got to be a player that the Chiefs like, but it's got to be a player who's comfortable knowing that, hey, even if things go well, they're probably only going to be the number 4 option. That's the high end of their expectations. If they want a lot of targets and a lot of snaps, they're probably going to sign somewhere else, Nick.
I mean, if you bring back Mecole Hardman, you're just adding a third guy that you're putting behind Marquise Brown and Xavier Worthy. Like that's his skill set. That's where he's at. So if you're trying to have somebody who can kind of fill in for Rashee Rice, you're going to have to go with a bigger body possession receiver that can work over the middle. And maybe that person has to be Jared Wiley this year, who's already on the roster. Or, you know, if there's a big body possession receiver when June 1st rolls around that the Chiefs might be interested in, maybe they're exploring stuff trade-wise because maybe there's a player that they have interest in. I mean, you just got to let this thing play out until they get to training camp on what they may do. Yeah, they'd probably still have interest in trying to find another veteran. You keep calling around, seeing what's available, see what happens on June 1st, and if the guy you're interested in isn't released by June 1st, then you go maybe make that trade at that point and try to get that done and get him in before minicamp so that you have that and then get the playbook and get started before they get to training camp.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I mean, you know, Mecole Hardman is insurance for would be insurance for a Hollywood Brown or an Xavier Worthy. He's not Rashee Rice insurance. So, if that's what you're looking for and you're looking to get somebody that can give you some snaps if you were to lose Rasheed, McColl's not your guy. I mean, he can certainly fill a spot, but I think that the Chiefs also feel like, to a degree, that they can probably wait a while, that if they feel like they needed McColl, that McColl might still be if he's still there in July and August and they have a need, they're going to sign McColl Hardman. But I think they're hoping that they won't be in that spot. And to your point, I mean, if I told you that, say, Travis Kelce was going to be 1,000-yard receiver this year, and you'd get, I'll be bullish and say 800 yards from your other tight ends, but you weren't going to add a veteran receiver, wouldn't you take that in a heartbeat?
Are you asking me or the people in the comment section?
I'm asking you for now, but in the comment section for sure. If I told you that you're going to get 1,000 yards from Travis Kelce and you were going to get 800 yards from Noah Gray, Jared Wiley, Irv Smith, you name it.
Hey, Matt, the only stat I care about?
W's.
Yeah, you got enough.
You and Eric Bieniemy are all about the alphabets.
I'm saying that's the only stat that ever matters to me. I know people are like, hey, you think he's going to throw for 5,000, do this or that? I'm like, hey, I'm not helping with your prop bets. Did they win or not? Like, that's all I care about.
Dr. Ozzy, I know you're a fan, Nick. If a Rice suspension comes at the beginning of the season, do you see them elevating Xavier's role maybe earlier than expected, or do they lean on guys like Justin Watson? I mean, Rice and Worthy are two different receivers, two different positions, so there won't be really any impact, right, Nick?
I mean, that's like, I'm going to use this example, and I know it sounds bad, and I apologize in advance, but that's like asking a doctor if they can work on your teeth. You got to go to a dentist for that. So that's what different roles are in that offense, is like there's different skill sets that they need. I understand they both catch the ball and run routes, but I'm just telling you, there's different roles they're supposed to do. And the Rice's role primarily is to run certain type of routes, to work over the middle, and to essentially last year to help Travis Kelce so that he didn't take the wear and tear that he did. So part of that's going to be Jared Wiley this year, hopefully, or maybe Noah Gray. And then if that other person is going to be Justin Watson, or if it's going to be somebody who's not on this roster yet, or maybe they feel comfortable with Justin Ross, maybe, like, that's what you're kind of thinking about. You're thinking about a bigger body type of receiver, and you don't rush Worthy no matter what happens, because again, you let him develop at his rate, just like the Chiefs let Rice develop at his rate, no matter how upset the Chiefs fans were about the wide receiving group last year and kept demanding that this person and this player and that player get playing time. You don't mess with rookies' developments. You just let them develop and work their way into the offense.
I concur with that, and trying to look it up and see. I mean, Justin Watson's going to play a lot of snaps. I mean, I would right now. I'm saying I would project and predict, and I would be surprised, and even if injuries affected this, I mean, Justin Watson's going to take more snaps than Xavier Worthy, and that's not a problem. That's not an issue with Xavier Worthy. This is the nature of the fact that, this year Xavier Worthy is going to play one position. He's going to play the Z. I mean, he's going to play the same kind of position, the same routes, do that kind of thing that Tyreek did as a rookie. And Tyreek didn't play a ton as a rookie. I mean, he forced his way onto the field and played more and more, but Justin Watson can play every single spot. I mean, yeah, they are going to lean on him. So he is probably going to get 50% of the snaps because he is a guy that they can plug in anywhere. And I kind of want to touch on this because I know some people roll their eyes at it when, Andy Reid talks about, and, sometimes the offensive coaches talk about, hey, Justin Watson, at least he knows every position. He knows his job. He knows where he's supposed to be on the field. That's actually a big deal when you're talking about a complimentary receiver, because sometimes your job is not to catch the football. It's to make sure that other guys are open to catch the football. Because Travis Kelce, even though Travis Kelce obviously improvises and reacts to coverages, Travis Kelce can't do that if the guy lining up next to him runs the wrong route and runs into his area and brings a defender into his coverage area.
Yeah, it's like if you get a chance, Tyreek Hill did a little breakdown from their Dolphins, from some Dolphins tape when he played the Raiders, and he talks about how you're trying to manipulate the triangles. And what he means by that is there's certain coverages that teams run, and you're trying to manipulate those. So you're either trying to squeeze down the triangle, you're trying to turn it into where it's not a triangle anymore. And that's where you create what you hear the announcers call the voids. So there's certain guys that are there to run clear out routes. routes, which is what Matt's talking about there. So there's certain people, Justin Watson, run the clear out route so that, Brown can eat, or Brown is running the clear out route. Or maybe, as people remembered last year, Marquez Valdez-Scantling ran nothing but clear out routes. That became his job because he didn't have speed to be able to separate from anybody for a lot of the deep passes, and then he showed up in the playoffs. And now he gets to show up in Buffalo. So, look, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about getting enough guys who can play the roles that you need to let each other create enough voids to get them the football at various points in a game.
I could not agree more. I don't know if we got to ask this last, Nick, or I feel like maybe it came up, and maybe it was just you and I talking about it.
No, this is on the Q&A 2 or 3 weeks ago when Tamba had the thing, and you went over a lot of them.
Went over a lot of them because I know Derrick Thomas, Eric Berry, and Jamal are all eligible. Alex Smith becomes eligible next year. I mean,
you mean Derrick Johnson, not Derrick Thomas.
Derrick Johnson. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Thank you very much. Those 3 are eligible now. Alex is going to be eligible next year. I mean, you're going to have some pretty good players, and obviously, there's some others that probably belong in the Ring of Honor that have not been put into yet. So, do you have any? I mean, I'm torn, Nick. I mean, I can't tell you who should be next. Although I'd probably say I think based on the body of work, I think Jamal probably deserves to be next. But
let me look at the Chiefs Ring of Honor right now, and I will let you know.
I mean, the fact that the Chiefs had 4 guys this year who are eligible under their loose guidelines. I mean, there are guidelines, but as has been said, I mean, they can always make exceptions, and they have in the past. But and at some point they'll have to consider guys like Tyrann Mathieu. That I think he had to play 4 years for the Chiefs, so Tyrann's going to be a question mark, but he might make it one day.
Yeah, I'm looking at influential guys that would have played in the 90s. Yeah, they've got they got DT and Neal, so they've already, and you got John Alt, and those 3 were all very crucial on top of some other guys. You already got Marty in there, you got Will Shields in there, you got T. Rich, you got Priest. One I would be interested in, I know he didn't have a lot of success there in terms of playoffs, but I do kind of wonder if Dick Vermeil would get an opportunity while he's still at the age where he could be there and kind of enjoy it and experience and enjoy the moment. Dick Vermeil would be one I'd be interested in, just because that was some of the greatest offense you saw until Andy Reid. So I mean, there's that. That would be one. Someday I know it's still going to be debated about Carl Peterson and what he did for the franchise.
And that's the one. I mean, I won't say who it was, but I will say that someone when we found out that Tamba was going in, there was someone in our discussion group that said, I don't care about who goes into the Ring of Honor until Carl Peterson goes in.
Because for people who don't know, when Carl got here in 1989, what he did for this franchise is still literally one of the reasons Matt and I are doing this live stream right now.
Yes. This team might not be here if it wasn't for Carl Peterson.
No, I mean, that, yeah. And among all else, I'd say Carl is probably number 1 on the power rankings in terms of influential people involved in it. I could see Dick Vermeil since he was here long enough. But yeah, no, then you named off, like you said, you've got Dante from Vermeil era. Kimball and Tim were already from the previous era. And then you've got Tamba, who's spanned from multiple eras. Because Tamba is one of the few guys. I know this sounds stupid, but I am going to say this. Dustin Colquitt is probably another one of those guys, because Dustin Colquitt's one of the rare people that spends. And I told him this when we did a Zoom with him a while back. I was like, dude, do you realize you're one of the few players that experienced Vermeil, Herm, Todd Haley, Romeo Crennel, and then Andy Reid, and you got to see the franchise at the different peaks until, and then you got to win a Super Bowl with Andy. I was like, dude, I don't know if there's many other Chiefs players that had that longevity to be able to see all of that. Tomba's probably the closest. DJ's in that ballpark. Jamal, somewhat in that ballpark. But yeah, every single one of those guys is deserving in a different order. But yeah, that's just amazing that I think about it. Just how much of the Chiefs eras Dustin Colquitt got to experience.
No, I mean Dustin probably deserves it. There's one other player that if you look at their numbers and you look at the other people who are in the Chiefs Ring of Honor and probably also deserves conversation, and I think would be a debatable guy, it's Larry Johnson. I mean, there's only 3 players in franchise history to go over 6,000 yards rushing. I mean, he's only like 55 yards behind Priest. I mean, Larry was really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to be a difficult discussion.
I think that is going to be an interesting discussion. There's going to be a lot of pros and cons on that one.
Well, a lot of choices. I think Jamal needs to go in next. I will absolutely love it when Derrick Johnson goes in, because Derrick was just a consummate pro. He absolutely deserves to be in the ring. Eric Berry does too. I mean, I think the toughest thing with Eric though is that, I mean, he's gone off the grid. I mean, they want the guy who goes in the hall to be there, and I don't know where Eric Berry is. I mean,
I saw him at the Tennessee game this year. He was there because he got honored.
That's it. Maybe you give him an award, he'll show up. I don't know.
I mean, with what he went through,
absolutely,
that changed his whole mentality on how he approached life, how he looked at life, how he interacted with media afterwards in a really positive way, and just kind of how he looked at life in general. So I mean, like, Eric saw, I know this may sound dumb to say, but Eric saw like a bigger picture after going through that. And in my opinion alone, just what he went through and how he still worked out while he was going through the chemo that he had and just going through all that and, losing his hair and kind of what his mom and dad told us. I still remember that presser up in St. Joe and just what they went through. And then the videos that came out about it. And just because I've had family members who have had cancer, I've had some that have passed away from it. And just to work the way he did and to keep himself in shape as much as he did and continue to compete and battle in the way that he did, like, you just have to have such a special mentality to not only do that, but then I was behind him in that preseason game. It was first time appearing back on the field after he had beat cancer at that time. And I still have it on my phone. I'm keeping it forever. Like, I'm following him from the team locker room all the way until he walks out to the tunnel. And he was the last person. Jamal, Tamba, all of them recognized him, gave him a hug and stuff. But, like, it's Eric Berry there at the end. And, like, just his walk down there and just kind of soaking it all in, taking it all in, and just knowing what he went through to get back to that moment. He just had a different type of appreciation. I know in the final year when he was here, the day-to-day thing and everything, I know that's kind of how too many people remember him. But I'm telling you, like, that guy, what he did to get back, I'm telling you, that's a whole different level of competitiveness.
Yeah, and I joined the beat the following year because his comeback season was 2015, and I came in the following year. And I mean, if you've been around people and lived with people in your life that have had cancer, there's telltale signs that just remain physically in your body afterwards. I mean, sometimes you can just tell. And certainly if you know someone who's had cancer, I mean, and you're around them, you can tell the little signs, whether it's the gray in their hair or just little physical signs. I mean, you could tell with Eric, you could tell and know that he went through the battle. But at the same time, I mean, just how much it was continuing a battle, at his age and with what his body went through and staying as healthy as he did. I mean, that was just amazing to me, that especially in 2016 and 2017 covering him, and especially 2017 after the injury, and suffering that, with the injury that he suffered in New England. I mean, and after watching him just go through that battle, I mean, that just gives you ever more respect for how much he fought and how much he had to fight through it. I mean, because it wasn't like it was. That's not a 1 year thing that you go through and you're just back to normal. I mean, that's something that affected him for years after that. He continued to battle through. It was always so impressive. So I know we get in the lightning round, but Trish has a really good question I want to start with next, Nick. I talked a little bit about Luis Rees-Zammit earlier, but she's asking what role do you believe he's going to have, and especially with the new kickoff rules. And I know we've talked about this a little bit too with him as well, but I still don't know how the kickoff rules are going to work, Nick. I mean, since maybe the last time we talked about this, we've gotten to see at least a practice where the Chiefs worked on the new kickoff rules. And I still don't know how I can't wait till training camp and the special teams drills, because that is no longer going to be a bathroom break period for anybody. That is going to be the drill to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm going to be blunt here on this one. I'm going to use a sledgehammer on this answer. We're not going to tiptoe around this one. I think this role is going to be on practice squad. Like, I think that's where that's going to be going right now. There's a lot that he's going to have to learn over time. And you don't have a roster spot in my book just to designate it specifically for a kickoff returner. In my book, you're going to have to, that person, those final people from 47 through 53, those are going to have to be people that can play multiple spots, whether it's on defense, offense, or a four-phase special teams player. So Rees-Zammit's going to have to be a four-phase special teams player, show promise at running back, or potentially if they have him run some screens or in the flats receiver-wise, and the ability to take a hit. Like, the thing that everybody keeps kind of forgetting right now and everybody kind of keeps daydreaming about is like, well, we hear he runs fast, and yeah, he does. You and I both saw how fast he runs. But we also haven't seen him take a hit with shoulder pads on yet. That's going to be a whole different ball game. So until that comes, like, I'm not putting all my eggs in the Rees-Zammit basket right now. Doesn't mean I'm rooting for him.
And if he can prove to be a weapon on that kickoff, I mean, that might be enough to carve out a role for him, because the kickoff is going to be a legitimately important play. And if you bring a skill set or a tool to that play this year that somebody else doesn't, I mean, you could absolutely be making yourselves useful. And I don't know. You're right. I mean, there is so much that is unknown about him. And so, I mean, I think there's a great ceiling. There's a very, very low floor. I mean, he might not be anything, but I'm interested to see. All right, Nick, it's lightning round.
Lightning round.
I promise. Jackson, what opponents are you most excited to watch against the Chiefs this season?
All of them, because it means football's going on.
I knew you were going to say that. I mean, there's a lot of them, but I mean, I'm going to be excited for that San Francisco game. I mean, just watching the Super Bowl rematch, and I don't know, maybe it's going to be Super Bowl 59 preview, Nick.
We'll see. But like I said, all of them.
All of them. That's not what I meant to do. Okay. And I didn't read this before I put it up here, but who on the current team has some trade potential like Smith-Marset last year? Probably too early to say, Nick. I mean, that's just kind of a who plays well during training camp and, OTA training camp in the preseason and just makes themselves useful that you probably don't have room for on your roster. I mean, he was a pretty unique guy.
Look, he had a hot couple of 3 or 4 weeks. He was catching everything there at training camp for a little bit so we could tweet about him, and he did really well with those 3s and 4s, and then he got traded to the Panthers, and I don't even know if he played I don't even think he played much this entire year. So, hey, if there's any teams that want to offer up any 5th, 6th, or 7th round picks for guys that probably weren't, well, not probably, they weren't going to make the 53 to begin with, then, hey, I look forward to the challenge of finding that out in August, Matt.
Dr. Ozzy, should the Chiefs follow Justin Tucker around the field in warm-ups and never move out of his way? It's their stadium, after all. I mean, this is the Justin Tucker revenge game. Clearly, I mean, this is why it's from week 1 of the NFL season, right, Nick?
I mean, look, I'm going to be intrigued to see how that. Like, I'm not kidding you when I say this. Since that game's going to be on our air, I will tell the photogs that day. I was like, just pay attention to the Tucker thing, because we're gonna.
If you don't have a Justin Tucker cam, I mean, I'll be very disappointed.
Well, there's only a certain amount of photogs we can have on the field, press pass wise, man.
That's okay. I mean, one of them has to have a Justin Tucker cam.
We'll see, because they'll be doing live shots for us as well. Since we'll probably, no, it's not probably. We'll have a pregame show that day. So, I mean, we'll see. But don't get me wrong. In between, when I have what we call bumpbacks come out of break or going to break, I'm going to tell them, go find the kicker right now. Go find the kicker, and that'll be my bump. I'll tell the camera person every time, go find the kicker. Go find Justin Tucker right now, and just show that. Doesn't matter where he's at. Other end of the field, that end of the field, I don't care. We will give time for it.
I'm bringing up this one. Lego was saying he paid $388 for the Falcons versus Chiefs game this year. I just wanted to bring this up just to say I enjoy that noon kickoff because it might be the only noon kickoff the Chiefs have this year. I'll be stunned if that's not a noon kickoff, but I could be.
I don't know. We'll see, man. Like, depending where it would not. All right. Since I was able to call the shot on the 49ers one, I think that's one of the few I've actually sort of predicted in our predictions. I don't remember anymore. We had a lot of things going on. But I could see them initially making that Atlanta game a noon one, putting it on Fox, but then offering it the chance to where if the Falcons are doing well under Kirk Cousins, maybe that goes into a 3:25 game.
It's certainly. I can't rule anything out in May, Nick. I cannot. Brandon, who's going to be the team to watch out for this season in the AFC? Texans? Question mark.
The Chiefs. Because every team's going to be looking out for them to begin with. So just keep tabs on what they're doing. That's what every NFL team's going to be doing. No, I'm curious. I know it's going to take some time, but I'm curious to see how quickly the Chargers can put it together.
Yeah.
How quickly can Jim, how quickly can Jim Harbaugh put that together? Because in week one, what's going to be interesting about that is with Andy Reid and John Harbaugh, you're going to have two coaches who know how to properly prepare their team early on in the season. John learned it from Andy. Andy already does it. So both those teams are going to be in a good spot early on in the year. The question that's going to come down from that Ravens game is going to be how quickly can the Ravens defense mesh together with a new defensive coordinator. And that'll determine how close or how quickly that game gets out of hand. Because we were all talking up big that one year in Monday Night Football when the Chiefs were playing the Ravens, and then Wink Martindale kept blitzing, and Patrick Mahomes just kept throwing over top of him. So it'll be interesting. We'll see. We'll see what lessons happen there. But no, the Texans are going to be a team that you're going to have to keep tabs on what happens. And then, like I said, in terms of the AFC West, I'm curious what the Chargers can do. And then the AFC North is going to be just collectively intriguing. Like AFC North and NFC North are both, I think, going to be stronger teams and stronger divisions than people realize.
Yeah, the North is really going to be interesting to me because obviously Baltimore should be good. The Bengals should be better than they were last year if Burrow stays healthy. I kind of feel like the Browns, I think until they can prove to me that they're not a 500-ish team that either just overachieves or underachieves the following year, I'm just going to assume that that's what they are. I mean, 500 wouldn't surprise me. Under 500 wouldn't surprise me. And let's face it. I mean, if they go 7-10 next year, then Kevin Stefanski is going to be the coach of the year in 2025 after he takes them back to a playoff bid. So that's the way it works. But I'm with you. I mean, that's a crazy thing, Nick. I mean, the Raiders and the Broncos were both 500 teams last year, and I think the Chargers could be better than both of them this year. Mm-hmm. I mean, could the whole AFC West be above 500? I mean, the AFC West could be the division that sneaks up on people unless the Chiefs blitz through it again and are 6-0 against everybody, and everybody's just worse because they had to play the Chiefs. But we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm still just hating against. I don't really hate the Texans. Or not the Texans, the Titans. The Titans are going to be terrible. Can we just agree on that?
I agree on nothing, Matt.
And Luttrell asking, is Casey happy with the current running back room? Luttrell wants to bring in a vet. Do you want a vet in the running back room, or are you happy with where they are?
Like we were talking about in last week's thing, I'm content with where the running back room is right now. They've got enough young promise there that you and I got to see at rookie camp that can pair with Pacheco that I feel more comfortable with where they're at.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, I think there's enough speed in there that I think that they can find the right pieces. It's going to be a running back by committee, but that's not a bad thing. Steven wants to know, do you think Dalvin Cook is washed?
Yes.
I think that's my short answer too. So, oh, Ozzy, I thought I confused the Kansas Jayhawks being in the college football playoff. Um, I mean, come on, that's adorable. But Kansas in the college football playoff, that's cute. How many reporters get permission from the NFL to do schedule release podcast? Well, none of us have permission. I mean, there's no real permission thing here, Steve.
I'm assuming Steve's talking about like releasing the information on the podcast, like the schedule itself. Because if that's what you're asking, then that's none. Like they're going to let ESPN, like they're going to let ESPN, NFL Network, put that out there. Technically, it's going to be on ESPN2 tomorrow, but like NFL Network, because if you didn't see it on Rich Eisen's show, he had to sign a non, it was an NDA or something like that, to where he was gonna get access to the schedule, but he's not allowed, and it gave all the details of what he couldn't do, couldn't post it on social media, couldn't write it down on a piece of paper, and then send a photo to a friend, and it went over all the he went over all the hypothetical scenarios in the contract. And so the people that have access to it right now are basically getting to do so they can start prepping the angles they're going to be talking about for 2 hours on the show the following night. And probably the producers who are going to have to pull tape and pull everything that you're going to be able to see, because I'm telling you can't do that. You can't, it's not like the NFL draft. You can't do that. You gotta have a structured situation from a producer vantage point here to get that all done. But look, I mean, yeah, if that's the part you're asking, then there you go. On the other part, I don't know.
I always think it's more just the fact that I mean, every podcast, every football podcast in America is doing a schedule release podcast tomorrow night, reacting to the news. And I'm surprised there's not an American alive who does not have a podcast, who is not recording a podcast tomorrow about reacting to the NFL schedule. So. KCG, maybe you heard this from our podcast on Sunday, that the NFL sets the preseason schedules now. Is that true? Yes, it is, Nick.
Yes, it is, because I said those words when we were talking. Top of 41 is the mic when we talked about the schedule part. Yes, the NFL is in control of that, because there used to be teams that wouldn't get anybody that wanted to play. So imagine it like at recess, and they're like, "Yeah, I'll take the Niners and the Cowboys and the Eagles for my kickball team," and then a couple teams were left out.
I hear after I did a really good job for the first maybe 75 minutes of reading, responding to 71 minutes, responding to people's comments and putting them up on the screen and responding in real time. And then I kind of fell asleep when we were doing that during the Ring of Honor. So now I'm just putting up some of your comments during the Ring of Honor with the suggestions about who could go in there. Couple of votes for King Carl. So Kathy, kind of a follow-up to our little quick discussion there about the running back. You guys see a need for a vet running back, speedy pass catcher. I mean, based on what we saw like in the minicamp, Nick, I mean, there's enough speed there, I think, in those young guys, that I'm not sold that they have to go out and get a veteran speedy back of some sort.
Yeah, in terms of veteran running back, I don't anticipate them going out and getting one at this point. They already have speedy pass catchers. You're wanting more of a possession receiver if you're going to go out, and you're wanting a more big body possession receiver if you're trying to do that.
Dez, what week do you think is the best one for the bye week and the Thursday night game?
Matt, you can go first, because I got to look up what I put on Twitter earlier today.
Well, I mean, this is selfishness, because it's what is the best bye week for reporters. And I can absolutely tell you the best bye week is the Thanksgiving bye week. There is nothing better than the Thanksgiving bye week, because the worst day of the entire season for a reporter is absolutely Thanksgiving. If you're playing a game that week, period. I mean, first of all, if you're playing on Thanksgiving, that stinks, because you're at the game and you're not at home for Thanksgiving watching football. You're just paying attention to one game when you could be eating turkey and watching 3 games all day. Instead, you're not eating turkey and you're watching one game. So that's me. And on top of that, the worst day to cover is if you have to go to the locker room and try to do anything on a Thursday, because Thanksgiving Day, because nobody wants to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So you get almost nothing done, and you're basically just going there to, to do attendance report at practice, see who's hurt, see, make sure there's nobody injured, and then you get nothing done that day. But you also missed, hanging around your house and not doing anything for a couple hours while you were at work. So that's the worst day. So the greatest day is that's the best week. But from a football standpoint, as long as it's in November, you're in great shape. October bye weeks are the absolute worst.
So here's the bye weeks during the Patrick Mahomes starting era. I put it on social media. 2018 week 12, 2019 week 12, 2020 week 10, 2021 week 12, 2022 they threw a curveball week 8 after that Niners game, if I remember correctly. 2023 week 10. So if I was guessing, sometime maybe week 12, week 10, somewhere around then. Just depending on, I think a big thing will be, how does that November schedule work out? What do they have that they're going to have the Chiefs do during that November schedule? The other thing you got to factor in is going to be potentially some of the KU games. Because for people that don't know, KU's got 4 home games that are going to be at GHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium this year. So you really don't – ideally, you either want the Chiefs to be away during those weeks or have a bye during one of them that allows the grounds crew to be able to alter what they need to on the field and not have any issues for either one of those teams that are going to be playing on that surface.
Yeah. And I mean, for a Thursday night game, I mean, they're going to, I'm assuming, because I mean, they're very well said, Matthew. The Chiefs will have to play one Thursday game other than the opening night game, because every team's essentially obligated to play an Amazon game on a Thursday night. So
did you say Amazon game or Thursday night game?
Well, you're essentially required to play an Amazon Thursday night game, because week 1 doesn't count as your Thursday game. So
would Amazon consider a Black Friday game the equivalent?
Unclear. I think Amazon would probably say they need a Thursday and a Black Friday game. I don't remember.
Sure.
I don't remember about the Dolphins last year. I don't remember if they played a Thursday night and a Black Friday game. I mean, I have to go back and look at that and see.
Don't worry.
I am sure that Amazon would say that doesn't count, but
I'm just saying, if Amazon has a choice between what's going to help them make max dollar, I mean, having both would, but having the Black Friday game with the Chiefs would be, if I'm in Amazon shoes and I only get one choice, that's the choice I'd take.
There you go. Dr. Ozzie, we talked about this before, but I think it's worth repeating. LRZ, Luis Rees-Zammit, is a free roster spot, right? He is not. The Chiefs used their international exemption on Chu Godric. So Luis Rees-Zammit is just like any other player. Even though he was an international pathway player, he is just like any other guy. He does not have a roster exemption for the 90-player roster. The Chu Godric has that exemption. So if he were to be waived during the cut down to 53 players, he could be claimed by any other team. And that's kind of the tricky thing. Would another team claim him? I mean, there was some other interest from him, so another team might absolutely be interested in him, and there might be more interest in him now that he's been, got the stink of the Chiefs on him. That will make it a difficult decision. Now, if he can't play football, it's going to be an easy decision, but we'll see what happens. But and I'm still trying to clarify that, because my understanding is that a team can only make that declaration once per year. Now, if they release a player that's in the international pathway program, can they use that on another player? That's not entirely clear, but the Chiefs did in fact, declare that Chu Godric from Nigeria as, for the second year in a row, going to be their international exemption player. So right now, Rees-Zammit does not have that kind of protection. So, here we go, Mick, because we are working on, getting some guests here on the 41 is the Mic podcast and all of our shows, Nick. But Brandon wants to know, who would we like to have on 41 is the Mic as a guest? Ex-Chiefs player, who? Anybody you could have, Nick? Who would you like?
Stay tuned in the weeks ahead as we continue to try to book these guests.
No dream guest that you want to put out there? No, don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Stay tuned in the weeks ahead as we work on booking some of these guests for after Chiefs minicamp ends.
There you go.
As Matt knows, we got a guest book for later this week that is going to talk with us about scheduling.
I will go. If anybody else has one more question for the road, you can get it in there. And
last call.
So our last call. And I'm not even going to, give any acknowledgement whatsoever to the Missouri Jayhawks, although I guess it is the Missouri Jayhawks since Kansas is playing their football games at Arrowhead this year. And I'm interested to see, Nick, how does that affect the Chiefs scheduling? And if the NFL is going to have the Chiefs and Kansas playing back-to-back days at some point this year, or if Chiefs schedule is going to be dictated a little bit by having the Jayhawks share their stadium.
Well, I think we kind of got a little bit of those answers when we saw the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals early on there in September as home games as quickly as we did.
See, and I had been terrible. I hadn't looked at the Kansas football schedule yet to see where that fit in.
I'll give you the dates if I have them written down here because I've already got that marked. I tweeted out earlier, but I got it marked too.
Imagine me not caring about the Kansas football schedule.
Saturday, September 28th is a home game for KU.
Well, what about is that 14th UNLV? Is that a home game?
Here's the games if you're ready for them. I got all four of them. I tweeted them. September 28th versus TCU. That would be week 4 in the NFL. October 19th versus Houston. That would be week 7 in the NFL. It's almost like.
So where is their UNLV? Is that the one that's at Sporting?
Yeah, the earlier games are at Sporting. And then they come to the Chiefs later in the year. They've got they got a handful at Sporting. So they got 3 at Sporting, 4 at Arrowhead. So
neither of the home games that we know about yet are on the same weekend as KU home games at Arrowhead.
Correct.
So we can take a pretty good guess then that the NFL is probably not going to put games back to back.
October 19th versus Houston, which is week 7. If I remember correctly, they play on the road against the Niners the next day, right?
Yes.
See? So there's that one. Then November 9th versus Iowa State, which will be week 10. And in the past, they've had a bye week.
It'll be a bye week or a road game.
Yes. Then November 23rd, week 12, which is also another bye week typically for the Chiefs. They play Colorado, which is going to be a big game if Colorado does well. We're having Deion Sanders coming to town, his son, Travis Hunter. Like that's good. If Colorado's more competent this year, that'll be a game
maybe the Chiefs could play at Denver that week.
It could be but it's week 12 though, Matt. So that's normally the week 10 or week 12 is normally the Chiefs bye week, and that's right before. You want to know what that's right before?
What is that right before, Nick?
Thanksgiving on the 28th.
There you go.
So that's Saturday the 23rd. So hypothetically, Matt, let's throw this out there right now. Say the Chiefs have their bye week during week 12. Then they come back and they play that Black Friday on Amazon the 29th. So they will have had the full week of rest, also getting to not have to play on Thanksgiving and playing on Black Friday that afternoon from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock if it's based on last year. I'm just saying that would be like the best thing possible schedule making wise. Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot today.
Well, Ozzy had some news for me here. The Jags got a stadium deal with Jacksonville today. City provided $800 million to the deal. Do you think that affects KC plans at all? Probably not. I mean, if anything, because I think the Chiefs might want more money than that for their stadium deal from whichever entity that they go to. But I mean, I'll admit I'm pretty surprised by this, Nick, because I firmly expected that Jacksonville was not going to be able to put together anything to keep the Jaguars from borderline leaving for London. But
yeah, we'll see how things work out.
There you go.
We'll leave it at that right now. We'll see how things work out. But in terms of the Chiefs, no, the Chiefs have won 3 Super Bowls, like in this range right now. Like they're going to get top dollar no matter where it's going to be at. It's just a matter of who's willing to give them the top dollar.
There you go. Casey Chiefs 12. Do you think Godric has a chance? I mean, I think he does. I mean, we'll see where he is this year. We haven't really got to see him since last year at training camp, but obviously the Chiefs are willing to use that exemption on him again. I mean, it is showing that they are willing to protect him over the possibility of protecting Reese Zammit. I think it is a little bit of, for Reese, it's 53 or bust. Not that he can't end up on the practice squad. I think he absolutely would if he didn't make this team, because I think that there's still, I mean, unless he just flat out can't play. But I think from what we've seen so far, I'd say, hey, if Reese Zammit doesn't make the 53, they would definitely have him on the practice squad. But I think the Chiefs, by tagging, giving Godric that exemption, I think the Chiefs are saying, yeah, I mean, they would like to see more from the kid. So they just didn't want a chance of losing him. So I think he's got a chance, but I'm guessing you want to wait and see what happens in August.
Matt, you know me too well. For anyone that's listening right now, whether if it's a linebacker, if it's a defensive lineman, if it's an offensive lineman, until the pads come on, it doesn't matter. Running backs, you can see how they catch, you can see how they run, but you can't see how quickly they can get through the hole because you don't know how they're reading the holes without shoulder pads and how they do after they take a hit or after they take on pass pro. So from now until late July, we're just watching a whole bunch of 7-on-7.
And now I get it. Dr. Oz explained to me only the Big 12 games are at Arrowhead for the Jayhawks. That makes total sense. So,
yeah, Matt, you remember the Big 12?
I vaguely remember the Big 12. It's this mid-major that Missouri used to be in. I kid.
Good kid about something like that. That's rude.
See, but when you're become an SEC snob, those are the kind of jokes you can make.
Yeah, but Matt, I'm going to be mean to you here for a second. You've got to be very successful in the SEC to be a snob.
Hey, we are the 5th best softball team in the SEC and the 7th best softball team in America. Thank you very much.
I just love how the entire SEC conference made the softball tournament. People that don't know, I'm actually really big on Missouri softball.
As you should be. They're awesome.
I watch it very closely. I get made fun of, but I'm as passionate about Missouri softball, almost as passionate about Missouri softball as I am about Chiefs. I don't watch the film in the same way, but
I can imagine that. But Julia Gulia, seen some different reasons.
We need to take her question no matter what, just because of the name.
Exactly. It's a great movie.
I don't care if it's a burner account or not. I just love the name and being able to say it.
Great movie, by the way. Different reasons why the Chiefs struggled so much in the red zone. Why do you think the Chiefs had so many problems, and have they addressed it, Nick?
So I'll give you twofold real quick in a lightning round atmosphere. Last call for questions because I'm going to be leaving soon. My dinner is cold at this point.
We might be wearing Nick out on this one.
No, you're fine. My dinner's getting cold. I'm going to have to reheat it here in a minute. Part of it is in the red zone is it's about spacing. Spacing gets tight in the red zone. So everybody has to be precise in what they are doing, how they are running their routes. And so defenses just like to stay in zone coverage because it's easier to do that and have the tight windows. When they used to have Tyreek, guys would kind of abandon zones at times and, hey, there's a void. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to create voids, and you need receivers that can run those routes to ideally try to make that happen. But not only make it happen, but make it happen in a specific window to where Mahomes has time to throw it to that spot when they manipulate it, even if it's for just a second or a tenth of a second or 1 second or 2 seconds, that they can do that. When you don't have that available to you, you need to have a strong running game that can knock people on their keister. So that's the other part of it is when you're inside the red zone sometimes, you need to be strong in your run game. You need guys, like we said, to knock them on their keister and a running back that can be able to do that and power through that to make that happen. That's part of what Pacheco was able to do a year ago. So when you have all those threats with receivers, they can potentially hold people back or manipulate the zones or get them to certain spots to where maybe they create some running lanes that they have, or they create some voids that some of the receivers can be able to attack to catch. That's the best I can tell you on that.
That is a fantastic breakdown of it. I cannot argue with any of it. And I mean, I feel like there's two things that stand out to me about the Chiefs and the red zone. And one thing I one that co-sign completely on everything that you just said. I mean, I think that obviously one thing that you have to be able to do in the red zone is you have to be multiple. And the Chiefs were just kind of one dimensional at times, especially in the run game last year. And if you can't be multiple, it's going to be a problem. The other thing is I think that the Chiefs have struggled with is that they weren't a big play offense last year. And one of the great things about the Chiefs offense is that in the past didn't have as many red zone opportunities because they scored from outside the red zone. And I do think that they've addressed that this year. I think this team is going to be more successful on big plays because I think that they have put in some players at least in the receiving room, and I think they have an addition in the tight end room that is going to help them open things up. And if they can attack downfield and they can have more big plays, I mean, that's not going to solve your red zone problem. It is going to solve your scoring problem, and it's going to solve you from having to get bogged down in the red zone and maybe have to settle for field goals. But your mileage may vary, Nick.
I was waiting for him to say
I knew you were waiting for it.
I was waiting for it, man. Matt, do you want to answer the microphone question? I saw that kept bouncing around in the comment section.
Oh no, I thought about that because we talked about it a couple of weeks ago too. I think is that Jack? Is that you the one that asked the question? John, Joe,
Steve asked a couple times.
Joe Crum. That was Joe's comment about it.
Yeah.
I knew it. I saw it. I knew it was Joe. About putting a couple of microphones where they can hear the questions in press conferences. I mean, there are microphones in the press conference room.
Yeah.
Just not used.
No, well, here's what I'll say as somebody who's back behind there, who has a camera rolling and is by the malt box during that time. There are, whether it's in the practice facility or at Arrowhead, they do have microphones that hang down and can catch in the room. So there's somebody from the Chiefs organization, and they do turn the knob up anytime somebody asks a question. So they are picking it up and they are getting it. It's just for people that don't know, like, I mean, I can tell you personally, trying to, like at a NCAA tournament where they have people that walk up and down the aisles and hand microphones, and hey, Timmy Timerson from that place from the Chiefs Digest Q&A, like because people eat the microphone like this, they talk like this. So in that part of that, like that's so inefficient. I hate to say it this way, but that's really inefficient. I mean, it's effective in people not interrupting other people and getting that question, but it also kind of it bogs down time wise. Somebody having to go around and hand microphones and all that stuff. But I'm saying they do actually, I want you to know, they do have somebody who's working to boost that input up to where you do hear that. It's just, it depends. I know it's on one. I know that's on, I think it's on it's on the same channels as the actual microphone of the person talking. But what I can do for you is if I'm at the Chiefs practice facility during the week, I can yell louder if that'll help. And I'll yell the direction of the microphone, and Andy and them can look at me and be like, "Nick, what are you doing that?"
I did not know that somebody was actually adjusting the volume.
Yeah, no, they do. They do every single. Well, Matt, that's what happens when you're sitting front row, unlike the rest of us that are at the back.
It's next to my desk, though. I should know that.
You should. I mean, because I'm literally at your desk every time. Whenever in the media workroom we're in the practice facility during the week, and see me back there with headphones, I get to feel like a Steven Spielberg during that time when I wear those headphones to double check on everything. But yeah, no, it pairs well whenever I hear it in my headphones. I hear Matt or whoever perfectly fine. And for me personally, on our camera, I've got a shotgun mic that's also feeding out, and shotgun mic picks up well too. It's so yeah. That's the best I can describe it before getting too technical and taking even longer to make my dinner even colder. So I hope that answers it.
Well, it answers my question about it because I did not know that. I mean, I knew the microphones were in there. I thought they just didn't turn them on anymore.
No.
They actually had the volumes adjusted and everything. So
in season they do, they have it, and they do it at Chiefs training camp too. They have somebody who's doing that, and I I tell them sometimes, I'm like, hey, can you, because each time they do it, because things that people don't realize, each time you do it, there's static electricity from it. So like sometimes it'll create a stack. I'll be like, ah, I'll be like, oh no.
Yeah, I knew that they added the shotgun mic onto the podium, onto the microphone stand at training camp a few years ago, and so that did improve things. So the more you know, Nick. I mean,
it's what I'm here for. Okay, I'm the behind the scenes guy that apparently has to think about because for people that don't know, for me, whenever I'm up there, half the time, not always, because sometimes the reporters like to shoot. And I'm never going to take that away from Aaron and Mackenzie if they want to, or Mick. But I'm setting up a tripod, putting the camera on, making sure I hit record. Number one goal as a photographer, hit that record button, make sure that red light comes on. And the second thing is making sure the audio is good, and that is. And third and most important thing is we have what we call TVUs, and we power that on, connect it through a BNC connector in the back of the camera, and then I call Sky Center. It's our editing department there. I'm like, hey, are you seeing TVU 3 right now? And then they say yes or no. If it's on a weekend and somebody may not be in there, or I'm going to call back, I actually pull up my cell phone and I'll go to the website myself and hit take. And then I call the desk and I'm like, hey, I'm on Cam 32 right now. It's live streaming.
The more you learn, Nick.
Matt, it's what I'm here for, okay?
I mean, I've now learned how this works. I've learned that the Big 12 games for KU at home are at Arrowhead, and the non-conference games are at Sporting. I have learned, I mean, I didn't know that all along that we could have been talking about Jenna Laird and Lauren Krings and Mizzou softball this entire time. I mean,
you want to know Jenna Laird? She is one of the keys to their softball run, Matt.
Jenna Laird's amazing. No, I mean,
she's very, very talented. Because I was talking with her the other day, and I'm gonna pull up the roster because I want to make sure I say her name correctly. And she hit the walk. It wasn't Jenna. She hit the walk off the other day. And I was talking to him. I was like, dude, Maddie Gallagher.
Oh, Maddie Gallagher, yes.
And Jenna Laird, like they're the Missouri offense right now. And you're hoping somebody else can step up and do that. I know people that aren't Missouri fans may not want to hear that, but I watch KU softball too. We cover KU softball at KSHB 41. We do a lot of the baseball games. Obviously, Missouri is under 500 this season, but K-State's having yet another good run like they always do. KU's hanging on right now, and this is actually their final week of regular season before they go into the Big 12 tournament next week. So for people that don't know, I'm keeping tabs on high school. We got state championship golf this week. Baseball and softball are winding down. Soccer's winding down. So I'm keeping tabs on all those. Chiefs schedule tomorrow, keeping tabs on. We got an Advent Health Championship Corn Ferry tournament going on here at Blue Hills that we're keeping tabs on. Whole bunch of sports, Matt, in the area. And then we got KC Mavericks coming up this weekend. They start game 1.
Dang. Well, I mean, you always have a lot going on, and we've got a lot going on the next few days.
Yeah, tell everybody you got a special guest tomorrow. Do you want to reveal the guest?
I think I'm okay. I haven't actually make sure with him that it's okay to reveal him. But I revealed it earlier, so I'm going to reveal it again. Right. Yes, since Nick will be busy with all of those things in the NFL schedule tomorrow night at KSHB 41 and covering all of those things. I'm going to be live here on the YouTube channel, Chiefs Digest YouTube, at 7:30 with my good friend Cody Tapp from 610 Sports Radio. He will be here, and we'll be breaking down the schedule and talking about what we see, what we anticipate happening. And then tomorrow night afterwards, you and I are going to record the 41 is the Mic podcast, where we'll be doing another take on it. I'll give you whole different, fresh perspectives on the schedule than what I gave to you earlier. So you're going to have to listen to both. You'll only be able to get Nick on the podcast, but you're going to get multiple looks at the NFL schedule.
And then we have another 41 is the Mic podcast. We're taping on Thursday for later in the weekend.
Yes.
And with somebody who's involved in the scheduling of NFL games.
Really excited about that, because then we're going to get kind of a perspective about how the whole thing came together, how the sausage is made, Nick.
That's what we try to do here on 41 is the Mic. And Matt knows how ambitious I am on the list of guests I'm trying to get you during the downtime after minicamp. There's a lot of names we're working on to try to get you a guest each week that you would want to hear from. So KC Chiefs 12, it is not him. It is somebody else. And there's 4 people that are typically involved in that room, and we were able to get one of them. And I'm very excited about it.
Very excited. So
I'm just saying, it's not every day that NFL PR remembers you emailed them and they get back to you and like, hey, do you still want to do this? I'm like, yes,
we do.
I was going to email you in 2 days, but you came to me. This is fantastic, and that's why I love their PR department there. They do a phenomenal job.
They do. They're taking care of us. So hopefully, just the beginning of a few other things we'll be able to do this.
And we're going to unveil the show open on YouTube and the new structure that we got worked out. And I'm going to recognize the person who put that all together for us.
Yeah. So for those of you who watched the podcast online, the 41 is the mic, you will be very impressed, which means I'm going to have to step up the game over here on the YouTube channel because I'm very basic, Nick. I even lost the graphic that had your name on it. So I need to find that.
Wait, what?
I created a live Q&A with Matt, Derrick, and Nick Jacobs graphic for the screen.
Oh,
and,
yeah. What's your show, dude?
And I used it once and then accidentally deleted it during the draft and can't find it now. So
you're fine, Matt. It's okay.
Speaking of how the sausage is made, so
you make those graphics yourself. I'll be done.
Kathy, thank you for sticking around to the very end, Kathy. I greatly appreciate you. Appreciate you all. So yeah, we've got a special bonus episode will be coming out probably say Thursday morning because that's when it will get recorded and done. And we will be, I'll be here on Monday, Wednesday night with Cody breaking it all down, and then we'll be back on Sunday with another regular special podcast because we're gonna have a special guest.
Dude, I'm gonna text Cody and be like, dude, your background game better be strong for tomorrow, man.
Well,
his daughter Ruby is gonna be join the show.
Oh, if we get Ruby, then I mean the numbers are gonna go crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Because she sings every time the Royals win. Or she doesn't sing; she has her phrase that she does that I always love seeing when the Royals win. And what sing? What is he? What can he sing? Can he?
I mean, if I could get Cody to sing a schedule song, he's singing a schedule song.
Yeah, let Cody sing a schedule song. What are you doing, like KC Chiefs 12? Are you trying to be like that guy in the comment section on YouTube that doesn't want me to say I bid you adieu anymore? Oops, I said it again.
That's right. Well, Nick, as always, thank you once again for spending your Tuesday night with us when you could spend it anywhere else.
What am I going to do with my time? I get to talk football with you.
Luttrell wants us to go to OT, so.
What's that? Is that a new gas station I need to know about? QT is a knockoff of QT.
I think we just went into live Q&A OT.
Oh, okay. Well, all right, Matt. I think that's his way of telling us to leave.
Well, once again, thanks everybody for a great night. Great questions as always. We'll be back next week and do it all again. You are the best. So have a great week and we will see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody.